Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tom Mike. So glad you're here. What do we got going on? Well, we got the markets pressing higher, right? We're having this melt up into the end of the year. Actually, we've been melting up pretty much all year, right? It's been straight up, very few pullbacks. As a matter of fact, we're pretty much trained to buy any pullback, buy the dip, right? That's what investors are trained to do right now. That's how our mind is programmed. See, investors, we think this is going to go on forever, right? I mean, this is just the way it is. It's been doing it for 16 years. What's another 16 years, right? I mean, it could continue upward forever. The Moon Boys believe that. A lot of people believe that right now. Now, that's not exactly my take. I do think that we're getting very close to a top, and maybe we've already started to top out in certain markets. I look at the Russell 2000, which is the small cap stocks, IWM. It's not making the new highs with the S&P, with the NASDAQ, with the Dow. It's actually starting to come down already. Has the Russell already topped out? That's a possibility. Now, a lot of people in the news, the mainstream media, they're all talking about this soft landing that the Federal Reserve has navigated, right? This soft landing. Now, in my opinion, that's just a big fairy tale. There's no soft landing coming. This is going to be one of the hardest crash landings we've ever seen in the history of the world, right? Okay, now we got this new president in, and I mean, well, not yet. He's, elected though, and he's going to be president again in January, and everybody's got the hope. All the Bitcoin people think Bitcoin's going to a million. Everybody's excited about all the new plans. Now, let's talk a little bit about what these new plans are. Okay, so what's he going to do? Well, he's got the Doge team in there, not named, well, I think it is named after Dogecoin, but the Doge team, the Elon Musk and Vivek is in there, and they're going to do government cuts, right? Well, I claim we're already in a recession right now without the government cutting, but let's say they can cut 10%. Let's say they cut 10% of the government. What does that do to GDP? Drops it another 2%. Another 2% down in GDP for every 10% you cut. You cut 20%, you're going to get a 4% drop in GDP. That's just the way it works. You cut the government spending, you're going to get a drop in GDP, because right now the government is the GDP, right? I mean, this thing has been fake for all these years, right? It's just the printing of money. And you can't stop printing money. You can't even cut out government or you get a drop in the GDP. Now, I applaud the effort, and for the long term, this is great, right? This is great in the long run. But in the short run, it's going to drop the GDP, which is going to put us, we're in a recession, it could drop us all the way into a depression. Now, also, when you cut 10, 20% of the government, what happens to unemployment? Unemployment is going to be spiking up because the government is it's the biggest employer in the United States, right? Just hired 787,000 people just in September, and now we're talking about making these cuts, and a lot of those people are going to have to be laid off, right? I don't even know what 787,000 people would do in 1 month. That's just 1 month of hiring, right? So let's say we cut them, all right? We give them a severance package because everybody gets that 2-year severance package. That's what their plan is right now. Now, granted, a lot of these plans are going to be interrupted. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second here. But anyways, right now the plan is to give them a 2-year severance package. So it's not really going to have an effect on cutting any expense for 2 years because we're going to pay them for 2 years, right? But yet we're going to see the GDP is going to start to go lower and lower. And the other plan that Donald has is this mass deportation. Now, mass deportation is going to be a direct hit on the GDP also, right? So we cut the government. That's a hit on the GDP. 2% for every 10% you cut. So that's a hit, but the direct hit when you have this mass deportation, right? Okay, so we got to have a lot of people leaving the country, right? They're going to start with the criminals, and hopefully after they get the criminals out, they'll let the other people stay, but we'll see how that works out. But there's going to be mass deportation, which is going to hit the GDP also. What else is the Donald got planned? Well, he's got these tariffs, right? I mean, 100% tariffs to, anyone that joins the BRIC coalition. So 100% tariffs are going to be very, very inflationary. Now, Donald will tell you that the other country, they're the ones paying paying for it, right? They're the ones picking up the tab. It has nothing to do with the American people. Look at you put a tariff of 100% on all the goods that come from China. You're going to see this passed along to the consumer. There's just no other way around it, and this is going to be inflationary. Going to make that 9% that the government is claiming. That's going to seem tiny when we get to 18, 20% inflation, right? And that's going to be their numbers. The real number is going to be more towards hyperinflation, which is up around 40 to 50%, right? Now that's just tariffs. Now these are just the plans, right? Cut the government, okay, which is going to spike up the unemployment. When we're going to have mass deportations, we're going to put these tariffs on. This is just the plan, right? Now, I got news for you. You see, Trump's plans are going to be halted, right? Unfortunately. I mean, it's bad news. I applaud his effort. You know, I love that he's making the effort. It's just too little too late. There's no one man that can come in and save our country right now. It just isn't going to work that way, not without some pain. Now, granted, once we reset to a new level of, we'll be able to take off from there, but the pain is going to come. There's no way around the pain. The pain, you can cut 50, 80% of the government. That's going to be painful, right? You can cut Social Security, Medicare. That's going to be painful, right? There's got to be some pain somewhere. You see, what we're facing is the largest financial panic is what it's really going to be, a financial panic. The largest financial panic in the history of mankind is coming our way. And people don't see this, right? Because we're in the roaring 20s, right? I mean, everything's great right now. I mean, you spend $30 trillion pumping into the economy and you can have a roaring 20s. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. Now, how long will it last? Can we get to, 29? I don't think so. We're turning over to 2025. And I think that's the year that's going to be incredibly painful. We'll see how that plays out. I think it's going to be here in the next 3 to 6 months. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they can kick the can down the road for another 16 years with just more money printing. I hope they can do that, right? Because, I mean, us, people with assets, we have a really good life right now. I mean, my gold price is just going up. My stocks are going up. My house is going up. Everything's going up, right? But for the people that are out there working, they're pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. It's high as 70% of people don't have any money. They don't have money to pay their bills because their bills are going up, but their paycheck is not going up. We covered that in the last video, how your pay's only gone up by 20%, where most things have doubled and tripled in price. But you've been an increase of 20% on your paycheck. It's not enough to cover these double and triple in prices. And there's no end in sight. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you can name anything, name from auto repair to, heating your home, to putting gas in your car, to putting food on the table. They're all just skyrocketing, right? But we're going to come in to basically the largest financial panic the history of the world's ever seen. And the reason for that is because we got this huge debt bubble, right? Now, you got to keep increasing the debt bubble. As soon as you deflate the debt bubble, you see that debt really is the money supply, right? If I gave you, okay, you come and borrow $100,000, you got another $100,000 to go out and spend, right? So you got debt is really spending money, which is really the monetary money, right? I mean, it's the money supply. You increase the debt, you're increasing the money supply. Now, when you decrease the debt, you're decreasing the money supply, right? You're shrinking the money supply. If I take that $100,000 that I loaned you and I take that back from you, it shrinks your purchasing power. You cannot go out and buy things. It decreases the money, right, out there in circulation when you pull in the debt. So if the debt bubble ever breaks, I mean, and when it breaks, it is going to be horrendous. I mean, this is the largest debt bubble in the history of the world. When this thing pops, most will not survive. Most will lose everything. It's very sad what's coming, but you listen to the channel. You've had opportunity to prepare yourself, right? And you can't prepare totally. I mean, there's going to be food supply chain shortages. It's going to be tough for a lot of people to get food because it's going to become extremely expensive, but you can protect yourself a little bit by having real money. At some point it's going to happen where they will not take currency for food. How will you get the food? Well, if you got got some real money, they'll take silver, they'll take gold. I mean, you can go to these farmers markets now. Ask the farmer if he'll trade, some of his food for silver. And 90% of them go, heck yeah, I'll do that, because that's real money. Even the farmer recognizes this. But at some point, the farmer's not going to take your currency because there's nothing he can do with it, right? It's just going to inflate it away. I mean, we're going into hyperinflation, and it's going to be very scary. It's going to be a very dark time. But once we get through that pain, if we let this flush out, if we let it reset, if we let the prices adjust to wherever they are. You see, we got all these Keynesian economists in there right now running the country, right? And they adjust things. They lower the interest rates. They increase the money supply. Now, here's the thing. I majored in economics. I'm an economist. And I'll tell you, the best thing an economist can do for the economy is leave it alone, right? Just leave it alone. Do nothing. Let the free markets adjust. This Keynesian where they adjust everything, we got to have 2% inflation because that's really good. We got to increase the money supply because we can't have a recession. We got to lower the interest rates to zero because we're going into a depression. No, that's all Keynesian. You got to let this flush out, and you got to let price discovery come back into the system. See, all these economists, they got to go away, right? Because they can't help the economy. All they can do is stay out of the way and see where it plays out, right? That's the Austrian form is letting the markets play out. That's the free market, and nothing beats the free market. Everybody thinks we have free market capitalism in the United States. I'm telling you, we have quite the opposite, right? You don't have free market capitalism when you print $30 trillion in the last, 10 years, right? You do not have a free market system. No, you have a Keynesian, I'm going to fiddle with in that 30 trillion. Well, it made all the prices go up, so it's killing off the poor people. But man, us rich people, we're loving this stuff, right? We're loving this. All of our assets are exploding hard. Look at the Bitcoin people. They're just jumping. They're dancing out there in the streets right now. They're loving this. Keep pumping the money and keep pumping it in, right? The rich people love that. The 70% of the country, they're going down, right? They can't afford food. They can't afford to drive to work. They can't afford anything, entertainment, nothing. It's very sad what we've become. We've become this two-sided economy, the rich and the poor. It's never been more extreme. You could go back to the days of the Great Depression and it's not this extreme. But we got this coming now. We got this coming, and the Donald's plans are going to be halted. I'm afraid he's not going to be able to pull it off. I think we have the right guy in there, though, because he is an expert at bankruptcy, right? He's done it himself, 4 or 5 times, right? He's a bankruptcy expert. He's going to be a bankruptcy president. Wants to be known as the Bitcoin president, but he's going to be known as the bankruptcy president, because you ask anybody out there, is the United States broke? And they'll tell you, yes, they're broke. Okay, but they'll also tell you that it doesn't matter. The debt doesn't matter. Why is that? Why does the debt not matter? What's the $36 trillion amongst friends? What's $200 trillion in unfunded liabilities? It really doesn't matter. That's what they'll tell you. I'll tell you, at some point, it matters. At some point, this thing will break. At some point. Now, nobody knows exactly when that is. Everybody always asks me in the comments, when, Tall Mike, when? I always tell them it's Tuesday at 10 a.m. I don't know when. Nobody knows when. If you knew when, you could be richer than Michael Saylor. You could be the richest person in the world. But no one knows when, right? But this thing will blow. It can blow at any time. I think we got my guess is it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Used to be years we had, right? 5, 4, 3. Do we have 3 years left? I don't know. Do we have 3 months left? I'm not sure we do. 3 to 6 months. I think they're setting Donald up to be the fall guy. I really do. I think they're loving this, right? Put him in office and this whole thing's going to come crashing down. He gets the blame. Capitalism gets the blame. We're going to wipe it all out. Now, when we wipe it all out, I hope we're smart enough to rebuild back properly. And the start would be to get rid of the Federal Reserve. You get rid of them because they're the ones that are tinkering with everything, right? You want to let the economy flush itself out. You want to get to a free market system. You want to build back with sound money, gold and silver, right? Everybody will say, but Mike, Bitcoin is what we're going to build back with. I got news for you. I don't think Bitcoin's going to withstand the test. We'll see if it does. Maybe it does. Maybe it will become money. My take is that it's going to come crashing down, going to get real close back to that zero number again. And it's going to break a lot of hearts. These Bitcoin people, man, that is their religion. It's going to break their heart when this happens. Now, nobody knows exactly when. Maybe it gets to 200,000 first. Maybe it gets to 1,000,000 first. But I don't think it ends well. I think it ends in total disaster. This is just my take. Your take, of course, is different if you're a moon boy. But you see, I'm old guy, right? And I've seen this. We're going to see this play out. Now, I wasn't alive in the last Great Depression, but I've studied it an awful lot. And I got news for you. This roaring 20s looks a lot like the roaring 20s back right before the big depression back then. I'm Tall Mike. You like this stuff? Give me the thumbs up. Punch the subscribe button. Get out there, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk again real soon. Bye-bye now.